On today's episode, we break down the biggest moments in sports from the last week of action and debate some of the hottest topics in the sports world. We'll talk the NFL, the ending of an exciting World Series, and dive into the latest Texas athletics news as we wrap up on October. All this and more on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Today's show
We're going to have an exciting show. We're going to talk about the
Austin's
NFL divisional round and what we expect from it. We talk about Texas's inconsistent start in Big 12 play for men's basketball. We'll finish with some talk about our women's basketball team. So we got a packed show today.
I got to go the other way. You know, Texas A&M, they got a lot of identity issues. Are they an agricultural school? Are they military? Are they blue collar? Are they academics? They're all over the place. So
now, I'm always a sucker for a one-handed catch. I have tiny hands. I need 3 of them just to catch a football. So this one-handed grab in the end zone, that's just super impressive in my eyes. That's going to be my play of the week.
Mayo pour on college game day. Look at this. Just the guy and the North Carolina, South Carolina game. He's just straight eating it, shirt off, rubbing it on his body.
Hey, listen, the Cinderella story ends here, Texans. I'm sorry, man. The chariots turns back into the pumpkin. It struck midnight. Whatever you want to say. I think it ends here.
Today's show is brought to you by Cat Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your rides this weekend's game at catmetro.org. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy Halloween. I'm Jackson Buss. This is Joe Duffey. And welcome to the 1-0 Sports Show.
Yeah, we got a great one for you today as the show is brought to you by Cat Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at catmetro.org. We got a really exciting one here. Big game in College Station, of course, last week. LSU just lost to Texas A&M, and A&M is heading to College Station. And, of course, a good week of NFL action as well. The Cowboys losing to the 49ers. A lot of exciting contests with the Packers also winning at the buzzer. But we're going to start real quick with who's hot and who's not. I like this segment really quick. I'm going to start with who's hot for me, Jax. I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman, the World Series MVP, on the World Series champion L.A. Dodgers. He didn't have a home run just in the walk-off of this Game 1, not just in Game 2, not just Game 3, but in the first 4 games, he had a home run, broke a World Series record, and he eased on to the World Series MVP. He had one of the greatest series I've ever seen.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 6 straight World Series games with a home run is pretty insane stat.
Yeah.
He's definitely been rolling. For me, for who's hot, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. Coming off a tough summer for him, a lot of controversy with the U.S. Olympic team. Even though he won the NBA Finals, he didn't get the Finals MVP. But amazing shooting splits, averaging 31 points a game. Looks like he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, I don't blame him because, people were trying to say, what's he doing on this Olympic roster? And all of a sudden, he's starting up hot, fresh off a championship season. But I'm going to switch over here to who's not hot. And I tell you what, who's not hot. Jerry Jones for the Dallas Cowboys, possibly going through more scrutiny than he's ever had in these past 10 years. You look at Mike McCarthy right there, just almost looking lost right there as he's pacing the sidelines. But some of the play calling here, you can't run the ball, especially this past Sunday. 53 rushing yards. The San Francisco 49ers had 229, I believe. When you cannot run the ball and have to rely on Dak overthrowing like this as he's rolling towards his right, overshooting on 4th and long, Jerry Jones, he set up this team for failure. Very disappointing so far this season in 2024.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, it's a repeated issue with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, but this is the worst it's been, 100%. For my who's not, I'm going to go with Shohei Ohtani, actually. Despite just winning a World Series, he was a non-factor at the end of the day. He's supposed to be the best player in baseball. He left the Angels so he wouldn't have the Mike Trout career so he could win a ring. But I don't really see the point if, he was a non-factor. 31 at-bats, his last 31 at-bats, no home runs.
Well, I tell you what, I'm glad he still got a ring. I wish Clayton Kershaw, I hate this rule in baseball, how if you're not actually on the playoff roster, you don't technically have a championship. He's going to get an actual ring. He got the shirt, he got the hat, but he won't be an official 2-time World Series champion. So that's a little bit disappointing, the guy from Highland Park and Clayton Kershaw. We're going to move on to what's trending here. And, of course, on Wednesday night, the L.A. Dodgers won their 8th World Series title on the back of Freddie Freeman. Game 5 ended with the Yankees blowing a 5-0 lead with a comedy of errors. 5 unearned runs scored on Garrett Cole. Error after error, as you saw Anthony Rizzo right there, just forgetting to step onto the bag. I guess he anticipated Garrett Cole going towards the first base bag. But after a complete meltdown in the 5th inning, where do you see the Yankees going from here? And will Juan Soto leave it all?
I think the Yankees will be fine. You know, obviously a huge market. They have a lot of money, and they should keep most of their roster. If they want to re-sign Juan Soto, they definitely have the ability to. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to him. I think he'll want to stay, though. You know, at the end of the day, they were only 3 games away from a World Series. In baseball, that's pretty close, and a lot of teams don't get that. The Yankees haven't been in this position for a few years, and it seems like they finally have the roster makeup that they need. So I think they'll be fine, and I think they'll be good to be right back.
I tell you what, I kind of agree with that as well. I think he stays in New York. There's no reason really for him to want to leave New York, in my opinion. They have the money, of course, the endless stream of money the New York Yankees have. There's no reason for them to not try to make a move to keep him. They can get rid of many guys that are kind of wasting money for them, and DJ LeMahieu. If they want to get rid of Garrett Cole, they could as well. I wouldn't see that happening. But Juan Soto could definitely get re-signed for sure. And I think that he is just too good to let another team pick him up, say, in the Texas Rangers. I'm just wishful thinking here, but I don't know. He could get picked up by a lot of teams, including a rumor in the LA Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be insane. I don't know how they could have that money, but somehow every team could find a way, like the LA Dodgers, who have so much money like them. We're going to move on to this past Sunday. The Cowboys lost in another disappointing defeat, this time once again to the San Francisco 49ers, who just completely owned the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. And after some rough showings, is it officially time for the Dallas Cowboys to start looking forward to next year? What do you say, Jackson?
100%. And at this point, it's not even next year, but I think this is a post-Dak outlook at this point. There's just not enough time to overturn this roster. Like, he's getting older, and I think he's still a good quarterback. I've always been a Dak guy, but I don't think they have enough time to overturn this roster, enough to build that championship roster. But regardless, I don't think any of that is the issue. I don't think anything's going to change unless Jerry Jones changes his ways. He won't go out and sign a coach that is considered, an alpha dog because he wants the attention on him. Mm-hmm. And you can't, right there, that stops you from winning a Super Bowl, just having that mentality.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would say a little bit that the season's not technically over. I just want to have a little bit of a football mentality right there. But this team can kiss their division hopes away. And we already know that this back-to-back NFC East streak always factors in the mind of these fans. You can forget about that. This team is not going back-to-back in the NFC East. It's really just up to Eagles and the Washington Commanders here for winning the NFC East division. So I would say they can kiss their division title hopes away. I'm not ready to say that they can't possibly get, say, a third wild card in the very end of the season. But, they have to start looking forward to next year and possibly trying to get a running back to replace a washed-up Ezekiel Elliott, a Rico Dowdle who's not really living up to expectations. Very disappointed in the front office for not preparing Dak Prescott for a solid rush offense because I thought this offensive line would actually be even better. They've disappointed a little bit of times as well. So,
yeah, I mean, they lost a lot of O-linemen in the offseason, especially to division opponents, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And the O-line has gotten worse almost every single year for the past 8 years, almost since 2014, so 10 years. And, they don't have a center right now. The right side is horrific. So, yeah, there's no run game right now. Dak has no support.
Well, it gets no easier for the Cowboys coming up as they just got smoked by the Detroit Lions, and they lost once again to the San Francisco 49ers, once again to Brock Purdy. And it's kind of funny because Deebo Samuel was in the hospital just last week, and, of course, on command, he just woke up like The Undertaker to play the Dallas Cowboys. And so as we wrap up this segment, please don't go anywhere in the One No Sports Show. Next segment, we're going to talk about our verses and what you have in the best plays of the week in the very past week. So don't go anywhere in the One No Sports Show. We'll be right back in just a few moments.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 1-0 Sports Show. We have our guest, Dylan Becker, on here to judge our versus segment between me and Joe. And we're going to jump right in and start off with our best Week 9 college football play. For me, I'm going to go with Justin Haynes' touchdown against Missouri. He absolutely crushes a linebacker right at the collision point and then takes it all the way to the house.
Oof. Come on.
It's an angry run.
Yeah.
A little disappointed in Missouri these past 2 weeks, but I tell you what, that's one tough run. Not much you can do with that. As you see Bryant Denny getting a little bit hype right there, you love to see them start to turn it around. Maybe if you like Alabama football. Not everybody likes Alabama football. I kind of like Alabama football, but that was a really solid run right there. I'm gonna switch it over to Javeri Ritzy and the pick six touchdown. A touchdown people are calling the thick six. Look at this right here. People are saying he might have been a running back in his heyday, and they converted him to DT because they said he got some potential in him. But look at him go all the way, shirt lifted up, getting some blocks, getting a convoy on the sidelines, and going all the way. And look at the second angle as we switch it over in just a few moments. Gets that pick right there from Virginia. This is a historic rivalry game as well as North Carolina traveled to Virginia to play this game. And look at him on the sideline, man. Look at him so graceful, just easily going through multiple defenders on the way back in Virginia, and he just was easy going right there for the pick six touchdown, Dylan.
All right, well, that angry run was nice, but I think I am going to have to go with the thick six. I mean, just watching that big man rumble down the sideline, the stiff arm, all the way. He went like 80 yards. I can't pick against that.
Fair enough. All right, moving on. Our best Week 9 NFL play. I'm going to go with Keon Coleman's jump ball touchdown over Tariq Woolen. What makes this play really special is just the play before they threw it up to him on the left side, and Tariq Woolen starts talking a little mess to him, saying that he's locking him up, and then they go right back to him, and he scores an insane catch right over him to take the lead.
Man, I love when, players talk a little mess. I wish they were a little bit more lenient with some of the unsportsmanlike conducts that they call, like you saw with them talking mess. I'm glad they didn't throw the flag on that one on the previous play. But, you love to see just DBs and wide receivers just contest for the sake of the game. But I'm going to go here with the Washington Hail Mary. And as much as it pains me to say, but, they found a way to win this game. The young rookie quarterback and Jaden Daniels just trying to buy some time. And I think this is going to be the play that people are going to finally try to have blitzes being called on these Hail Marys, because this dude had all day to throw this final pass, and it got tipped in for the touchdown in the very back of the end zone. Washington walks it off and wins. And if you remember one of those viral social media posts, there's a player who got caught trying to showboat to the Washington crowd, and he ends up tipping the ball in the very back end in for the win into the hands of Noah Brown to catch the game-winning walk-off Hail Mary. I just can't believe it, Dylan.
Yeah, big shout-out to Tyreek Stevenson for allowing that play to happen. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Hail Mary there. That was a historical play. It's going to be remembered for a long time. I honestly think if anyone was watching the game last night, that Garrett Wilson catch could have rivaled it. It could have been up there, but that Hail Mary play, it's unforgettable right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I can't complain with that decision. That was a pretty crazy play. Moving on to our best NBA play of the week. I'm going to go with Luka's step back, dagger three against the T-Wolves, reminding them what happened last year in the playoffs, reminding them who he is. Pretty special moment, especially earlier in the year. I mean, right, steps back to the logo.
And again, we talk about, oh my goodness, look at him talking.
Yeah, there he goes.
My God. And the best thing about it, too, is at the end of the game, he and Anthony Edwards were just chopping it up, just exchanging, pleasantries at the end of the game, showing there was all this in good-natured competition, nothing personal. But, during the game, they were going at it.
Yeah.
And you love to see that from a competitive standpoint. As Luka hits this one once again on the Timberwolves, just making them reminisce about that Western Conference Finals that just did not go their way. But I'm going to go a little bit earlier here in the same game, and Luka Doncic driving towards the lane in the hands initially of Derek Lively, but he going towards Spencer Dinwiddie in the corner. I botched that he so bad. But if you take this slow-mo, which I'm going to show in a few seconds, just look at this pass once again. Double tap in circle, double tap in B, depending on what controller you use. Flashy pass to Spencer Dinwiddie. No look. That's a true no looker. Doesn't get
Yeah.
more no look than that one. He's not cheating it. And Spencer Dinwiddie did the rest on the assist.
All right, we got 2 Luka plays here, but I am going to have to go with that step back dagger, close the game, just classic Luka, slow motion. Somehow you can't do anything about it. He just pulls up in your face and buries it for the win.
Absolutely.
Got to take that.
All right, we are going to move on to our Will Levis segment, as it's called. Our worst ref mistake or the biggest blooper of the week. I'm actually going with not just singular play, but the Yankees' entire defensive performance in the 5th inning in Game 5. I mean, we started off, Judge, just a routine fly ball, drops it to start off the antics.
Man,
Safe at second. That was rough. That was rough. Bases loaded.
come on, man. 5 unearned is just crazy.
They
dude.
get it. They get it to 2 outs though after this with bases loaded. you think they have a chance? And then,
Cole's about to get out of it.
yeah, I mean, Rizzo, you expect him to have a faster reaction, but I think that's on Garrett Cole there. I mean, you
Yeah,
got to
true,
cover
true.
the bag,
Yeah, he just stopped running.
especially with an older, slower first baseman.
Yeah,
Definitely on Garrett Cole. Joe.
I mean, that's just tough right there. I mean, 5 unearned, like I was saying, of course, to a stud pitcher and Garrett Cole. You hate to see that. Maybe if you don't like the Yankees, you don't really hate to see that. But I'm gonna move on to the missed face mask in this past Thursday night football game. Look at this right here. Sam Darnold in the back of his own territory, just getting taken down. But wait, he's trying to plead for something for the official who literally has the best ankle in the house. And if you see right here, he's getting pressure on the left side. He gets his face mask grabbed, and somehow, no call. Look at that. His neck is just getting turned almost all the way around, and somehow nobody saw that in the back of the end zone. There's 2 officials back there, the lead referee, and of course one of the back judges, and neither one of them saw that, ending the game at 28-20, effectively a safety being called right there. And that would cost the game. If you want to say it cost, and there's more things that go, of course, in NFL games, but that effectively ended the game for the Minnesota Vikings. And you hate to see that for a franchise that seems to be almost cursed for so many decades.
Yeah, both of these plays, or both of these, I guess, just videos are pretty rough. But I think the stakes of this Yankees-Dodgers game, series on the line, season on the line, up 5-0, chance to continue your season, and you give up 5 unearned runs on unmistakable errors. It's just uncharacteristic of a championship team, and it just fell apart. And by the way, we'll get into this later, but where was Aaron Boone? I didn't see him get to the mound. I don't know. Rough inning, Yankees fans. I'm sorry. I got to go with the Yankees collapse.
All right, we are knotted up at 2-2, heading into our best miscellaneous sports play of the week. I've got a pretty cool one here. The Cal-Oregon State game last week. Javian Thomas makes the catch, then is about to get tackled, makes an insane lateral back to his quarterback Mendoza here, who runs it in for the touchdown to open the scoring.
Look at that.
Yeah.
He's hype. Good reason, too.
It's almost like they drew it up, but I can't imagine that they did.
See, if I were them, I would have played it off like it was just complete what we drew up. I mean, we definitely planned that right there in the California Golden Bears. But as he marched in, that's just a great play right there. I'm going to go with, I don't know if a play, it's going to be less remembered now because of the Game 1 walk-off. I'm going to go with Alex Verdugo's catch in foul territory. I thought this was pretty cool just based on him hopping into the stands. But Shohei Ohtani goes towards the left side of the field. Alex Verdugo on the run at left field just flips over, almost upbends himself, and still gets the ball in to prevent a runner from tagging to second to third. And look at him just a little bit shaken up. Makes the catch, but his momentum just carries over that left foul wall. What a play right there by Alex Verdugo, who ended up being the last out in the World Series. Started his career with the LA Dodgers and is the last out of the World Series. Sadly, that play is going to be forgotten because of that Game 1 walk-off and the utter domination from the New York Yankees.
All right. Close. Both of these plays are very great. For the win, I am going to have to go with the Mendoza touchdown lateral play. That was incredible. He scooped it last second, threw it up right before his knee touchdown. Quarterback smoothly, one hand grabs it, walks in untouched. I mean, the lateral is the most underutilized play in football, and right there you see why it can work out so well. Obviously, it can work out poorly too, but right there, miracle play for a touchdown. I got to give you the win there for the comeback.
There we
Just
go.
blew a 2-0 lead.
All right, that wraps up our versus segment, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, moving into Texas athletics.
Welcome back to the 1-0 Sports Show. This is our Halloween special. My name is Joseph Duffey, joined alongside Jackson Buss on my left. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to move on to Texas athletics, and Texas picked up its first SEC road win last Saturday, defeating the Vanderbilt Commodores 27-24 in what was another struggle win for the Longhorns. Another victory nonetheless. But Jackson, what was your biggest takeaway from this game?
Yeah, I think these games against these subpar opponents are really hurting the Longhorns because they play so far back because they're worried that they're going to throw over them, that they have to run the screen plays and the motion all the entire game. And then Quinn doesn't really get a lot of experience throwing deep, and then they play a team like Georgia who presses them, and then Quinn can't throw the ball on them. So I think that's probably the biggest issue for the Longhorns right now.
Yeah, for sure. You saw Matthew Golden have to step up to the plate in the absence of Isaiah Bond. Matthew Golden with that catch right there. But DeAndre Moore had a heck of a game as well. 97 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. The running game also picked up a little bit with Trey Weisner, who's now taking that RB1 role. And then also in Jaden Blue, who is a little bit more stagnant these past few games, taking a little bit of a lesser role as now RB2. But he has had a bounce-back game as well, being available through the air and on the ground.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome that guys like DeAndre Moore and Trey Weisner are contributing. They're from a couple cycles ago. Longhorn fans might have forgotten them about it a little bit. Maybe they're looking. They honestly thought Trey Weisner was getting into the portal this year, but it's awesome that they're getting him involved with a lot of injuries in the running back position. So great to see that even at the end of recruiting that we didn't think they would get involved, but they are now. So it's huge.
Yeah, for me, I'd say the O-line is a little bit of a glaring issue, especially in these last 2 games, pressured by, of course, the great Georgia front 7. But last game, I thought they gave up a little too many sacks, and especially in those Quinn Ewers picks, where he was pressured on both of them. Of course, a tip drill would end up in the hands of the Vanderbilt Commodores. They would score both of their touchdowns off of those turnovers. I thought the O-line also had too many penalties as well against Vanderbilt, who had less penalties in the game total. But moving on to the second question here, Quinn Ewers threw those 2 interceptions that were both tipped. What's going on with him? And should Longhorn fans be concerned with his turnovers?
Well, In terms of the Vanderbilt game, I don't think the tips were his fault. Obviously, I think especially the first one, that was a really accurate ball. Just a little unlucky there. But they should be concerned with Quinn Ewers because I am going to have to disagree with you a little bit on the offensive line. The way that Texas schemes their offensive line, it's for a mobile quarterback to step up and make adjustments based on where they throw the defender. And Quinn has not been doing that since before his injury, and that's been a huge issue. And that's why there's been so many sacks and more pressure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of interesting to think because it almost seemed like in some of those plays that they could be designed for a guy like Arch Manning, who some would argue should be playing in front of Quinn Ewers. But we're not going to talk about that today. But I would say that for this issue, Quinn Ewers still is the QB1 of this team. He should not be challenged for being benched like we saw in the Georgia game, who I'm still kind of mind-boggled by that. Sarkisian would say that it's because he wanted him to get regrouped and resettle and have him just take the rest of the first half off so he can come back in the third quarter. It ended up kind of working in Texas's favor as they would finally get on the scoreboard. But no, I don't think Texas fans should be concerned with Quinn Ewers. You can't win every game, of course, but they were able to bounce back for sure. And after that first pick that we saw in his first pass attempt in the game, he ended up going 18 for 18 with 3 passing touchdowns in his following pass attempts. And so finally here, as Texas heads into their second bye week, the SEC is beginning to shape itself out, Jackson. Do you think that Texas can still compete for an SEC championship?
I do think so, but the offense needs to learn how to adjust, especially at halftime. And, this was an issue for Sark in year 2 as well, and a little bit last year, where they would go into halftime up 31-3, and then you see the final score 34-31. They still get the win, but the adjustments have always been an issue for Sark. And I think now playing SEC ball where the defenses are a little more stingier, it's really glaring. It's a really glaring issue right now. But I think they can get it done still.
Yeah, and I think that, it's funny because Steve Sarkisian is friends with Kyle Shanahan, and they often have the same issues. They draw from the same playbook, and sometimes they get too much in their heads, sometimes with their play calling, and they start to just lose, what made it the team go well in the previous few quarters. And you talked about how they can lead big at half and end up only scoring like 3 points in the second half and not just winning by even more. But nonetheless, they still get the job done and they win. So I believe that with this Texas team, they can still compete for an SEC championship. And you're starting to see that maybe little Texas fans could be spoiled in a way. This team is still 7-1. They're still a top 10 ranked team. They are still in a good path to possibly get an SEC championship berth. But they have a long road ahead of them. Got to play in Arkansas and Fayetteville. And also got to go to College Station for what is a massive, massive game at Kyle Field, a game that could potentially send a team to Atlanta for the SEC championship. We're going to wrap up this segment of Texas Athletics. In the next segment, we're going to talk about our debate, and we'll have some great content for you in Michael's debate segment. Don't go anywhere on the One and Know Sports Show. We'll be right back. welcome back to the debate show and the one and no sports show. Dylan Becker joining us back on the left. Now, Michael Alvarez in the middle, and then Colin Flickinger on my right for this hype debate segment. Can't wait to dive right into it, Michael.
All right, so basically we have some new faces this week for our debate segment, and so basically all you're gonna do is we're gonna have two topics. So one's gonna argue one side, a person's gonna argue the other, and then y'all are gonna y'all kind of battle it out, and whoever I choose gives me the best argument or convinces me in their side more will win that question. So you'll know two questions. And then third question, if y'all know anything about College Crossfire, they have a rapid fire round where they don't know what's coming up. There's not scripted, and that's kind of what we do here as well. Shout out College Crossfire. But anyway, we're going to get right back. We're going to get into it. So the first question, after falling behind 0-3 to the Dodgers, the Yankees started to flip it around and were up 5-0 with a mere 4 innings away from forcing Game 6. However, a bottom of the fifth meltdown, which we've honestly seen a couple times on the show already now, led to their ultimate downfall. So, in reality, who do you blame? Do you blame manager Aaron Boone or the actual players for this poor World Series performance? Joe, y'all can have first dibs on this one.
I hate to do this, but I always have to go on the side of the players. I'm not a guy who likes to scapegoat managers and coaches. If you look at this roster, where was Aaron Judge, man? Where was the guy who almost won the Triple Crown? Of course, he's still going to win the MVP in 2024, but he was nowhere to be found until the final 2 games. And so when you have a guy like him who couldn't show up for the New York Yankees, it's kind of disappointing, and you can see why it ended up going against the Yankees' favor, especially in those first 3 games.
Yeah, and then you also got to look at the errors on the defensive side in that 5th inning. You know, Jazz Chisholm dropping that ball at third base that would have gotten an extra out. They would have been out of the inning by then. Aaron Judge dropping the pop fly to the outfield. 5 unearned runs. I mean, that's just terrible. That fielding was god awful in that in that 5th inning. You can't blame that on Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone isn't teaching them to catch the ball. They should already know how to do that.
Yeah, I think those are all good points. At the end of the day, the players are the ones making the plays. But, you know, this is the MLB. These are all professional baseball players. You know, like, they're not making these mistakes because they're bad. You know, that's getting your players right. That's getting them ready, prepared, and confident and focused. And so I do think that falls to the manager. Another thing I wanted to point out about Boone, he makes a decision to intentionally walk Mookie Betts to load the bases, get the lefty-lefty matchup. But Freddie Freeman is awesome against lefties in his career. Huge mistake, and it cost him the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also think in that Game 5 with all the errors, obviously those errors were bad, but I think, as I said earlier, a mound visit from Aaron Boone could have really helped calm those guys down. They're all out there. They're nervous. They're worried. They're making bad plays, and they're getting in their own heads. And I think if Boone got out there, he got his guys together, and he said, we're good. Let's calm it down. Let's get back to what we know. I think that could have really helped them save themselves in that Game 5, in which they ended up losing the World Series. I mean, even if they make just one of those plays, that last play with 2 outs, they get out of the inning, Garrett Cole gets out. He has another great performance, and they win that game, and they have all the momentum in that series, and instead they lost in 5.
I mean, we can't just look at the 5th inning, though. What Joe brought up, where were the bats this series? Aaron Judge was like, I think 2-17 in the first 4 games, or the first 3 games, rather, and then going into the 4th game, and then he turned it up at the back half. But, I mean, he's been a low-leverage hitter all season. He hasn't been good in big situations. Where was Giancarlo Stanton? I mean, Game 4 and 5, he was good, but wasn't good enough. They weren't doing anything in Game 3. And then, you know, just a complete meltdown from the bullpen. There's no good players in that bullpen. It's riddled with mediocrity. Like, they just couldn't pitch. There was no one good that Aaron Boone could have brought in for those situations, especially at the end of Game 1. I mean, you really have to blame it on the players. They just weren't good enough.
Well, I mean, even more to that point, you know, if they don't have a good bullpen to go to, that's why Garrett Cole pitched I think he pitched over 100 pitches in Game 5. And, you know, maybe if there is a mound visit and he gets that bag, that saves him, I think, 15 pitches or so. Maybe he can last an extra inning.
Anything else? Everyone's good?
That's it.
I mean, because you have to, like, when you look back at the Game 5, I mean, they lost 6-5.
Yeah.
So it was a meltdown. Like, it was like
7-6.
7-6. Okay, so they still gave. I mean, it was the 5 unearned runs that killed them. But I mean, they had a bad series altogether. I think it went both ways. I like the argument y'all made. How especially the point you made out where he intentionally walked Betts. Yeah. And then Freeman came up against. You said he was solid against lefties all like in his career, and then obviously he went and banged one and it put him back in the game. and then y'all say how it's not just Game 5. The whole series, the players' bats weren't hot. Their best players, Aaron Judge, he didn't show up. I mean, he's been notorious for not showing up in the postseason recently since he's kind of dived.
He doesn't show up in any big games.
Yeah, since he dove into this.
A low leverage hitter.
So it is a real tough question to time based on. I'm gonna swing this way, just because they had more to go off of. I guess I can kind of take blame for that. But y'all put up good points. Y'all argued well that Boone made. I mean, because at the end of the day, it was a complete collapse from the entire organization. So that's why I thought the question was somewhat fair. But we'll move on to the next one. They're up 1-0.
One more thing. I think that Yankees team was probably one of the worst teams to ever make a World Series. I mean, they only had 3 bats. Like, their first baseman couldn't hit. Their catcher couldn't hit. Volpe is so on and off. And then, Chisholm's been cold for the last 2 months. Yeah, it's just not that great roster construction. It's just really not a great team. Like I said, that bullpen was terrible. Their starting pitchers, Cole is an ace, and then everyone else is just, I mean, just
well, so they
not
pitched
there.
them. They gave them 100 pitches. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they need so it just makes
even
sense.
the rest of the starting rotation is terrible.
Isn't it crazy how saying 100 pitches is like a lot, like in 2024? They used to be standard
Yeah,
for a
which
lot
is
of
crazy.
starters.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is
kinda
crazy.
insane.
All right, but next question. So, after starting 2-1, the Jets dropped 5 straight. However, they picked up a big Thursday night win over the Texans. With the addition of Devontae Adams, the offense last night, the big win last night. I guess not Thursday night. With the addition of Devontae Adams, the offense has really caught a spark. Are the Jets going to turn it around starting now, or is it a little too late? Jackson, y'all get the first drop here.
Yeah, I mean, this team is still 3-6, so I'm not going to guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs. But in my opinion, when you have Aaron Rodgers, you always have a chance, and especially with the addition of Devontae Adams. The thing about Robert Saleh is he was a player's coach. He brought a lot of morale, but obviously wasn't effective coaching on the football field. And so I think for a couple weeks, that's when firing him, like they knew they were going to be in a rut for a couple weeks. But they're embracing the new culture, kind of finding their way into things. So I think there's 100% great chance that they can turn this season around.
Yeah, and I think you look at that win from last night. That's a big win against a really high-quality team in the Texans, against C.J. Stroud in New York. That gets so much momentum. That was the first time they got Devontae Adams going. Garrett Wilson looked like he was coming back into form. Even Breece Hall, after kind of disappearing somewhat this season, he came back last night. They looked really good after a slow start last night. They had a couple bad errors, dropping the ball on the 1-yard line before scoring. They had a couple fumbles. But in that second half, they really turned it around. And they have an easy schedule coming up. You have a veteran quarterback in Rodgers, really talented offense, great receivers, great running backs. I think they have a good chance to turn this around. I mean, they're set up well. They got the momentum now. That's all they needed. I think they can take off from here.
I'm going to go a little first take here. Did the Jets win this game or the Texans lose? I saw last night's game as the Texans losing this game, and it's because they were banged up. I mean, Tank Dell was out there pretty much by himself. No Nico Collins. Of course, no Stephon Diggs, who just tore his ACL. He's out for the year. C.J. Stroud was not throwing to a lot of great players out there. Dalton Schultz, of course, being one of those targets for him. But when you look at this team in the New York Jets, of course, Devontae Adams kind of just now woke up and is finally getting some red zone targets. You saw him get a touchdown last night. I'm not so convinced that this is the team that I'm ready to say still has a chance. They're still 3-6, like they just mentioned. And now, Tua Tagovailoa is back in the AFC East, and the Bills are almost just running away with this AFC East in general.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's just that defense, on paper, it's so good, but what have they done this season to actually live up to that? I mean, Russell Wilson, we all know he's washed. He dropped 37 on him. That
Wait,
defense.
hold on. Russ has been having a good year.
Okay, look, man, I'm a Steelers fan. I can call my own quarterback washed. That man is washed.
Dang, man.
All right?
Dang.
Anyway, like I was saying, that defense is just not great. Robert Saleh, at least when he was their coach, they were performing well enough to keep them in games. When they fired him, because let's be honest, that was all Ashwagandha Aaron. He was the one to pull the strings to fire Robert Saleh. He's blaming everybody but himself for this. Where do we draw the line? I mean, he's thrown picks, too many picks this season. He's just not living up to where he should be as a quarterback. And you say they have an easy schedule remaining. I mean, the Cardinals have looked really good this season. Like, they played the Dolphins twice with a return to they played the Bills again, and then Seahawks look good, and you also can't just expect to win any games in the NFL any given Sunday. They already have 6 losses. If they want to make the playoffs, they can only really afford one more, maybe 2 if they're really lucky. I don't think they can run the table with this, like their remaining schedule. I don't think they're a good enough team to do so. I don't think they can make the playoffs. I don't think they can turn it around.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of points we need to address there. Number one, Joe, you said the Texans lost this game, and that's a fair point. A lot of costly errors, but the Jets did too. This could have been a blowout. You know, they don't drop that at the 1-yard line. They don't have a couple of fumbles.
True.
You know, so I think the mistakes were pretty even on both sides. In terms of Tua, I'm not really worried about Tua turn the ball over. Okay, not really a concern for me. And with the defense, all your points were 100% correct. I mean, this defense is top 5 most talented on paper in the league, but they're not playing complementary football right now. But, you know, like I said, they're still churning out like Salah, like he's still, like his energy is still there a little bit, and I think once they completely turn around the culture and go all in on their interim coach, that this defense could change their way.
Yeah, and I also think that a lot of times a good defense feeds off a good offense. And for a while, that offense just hasn't been producing the way they should have. And the defense has been on the field a lot. They've been tired, and they haven't been able to produce the way they should. But now that they're getting that offensive production finally from their star players, they're going to be able to be better. They're going to have more rest, more time off the field. And you just look at the talent on this team. I understand that they may not be playing complementary, like you said, but I think the more they get going, the more momentum they have, the more they get Devontae Adams into the offense, the more they get Breece Hall back and Braylon Allen, that two-headed monster, the more this offense is producing, the better the team will be as a whole because it'll allow the defense to be better.
And don't get me wrong, I'm wishing the best for the Jets. This is one of the perennially cursed teams in the NFL, so I wish they could really bounce back because, of course, they thought that trading for an old quarterback and Aaron Rodgers is going to solve all of their issues. And now with Garrett Wilson with the offense opening up with the addition of Devontae Adams, he can finally blossom himself. I just don't know if I can just buy into the potential of this team.
And then I just want to address your point about culture. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. It's a culture of no accountability. I don't think anybody is taking blames for their losses like you really need when your team is doing this bad. I think when you say they need to change the culture, I think that starts with actually just getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. You look at where they were last year, they had a better record than they have now with Zach Wilson as their quarterback and a much less improved offense and defense than they have right now. I don't think this is a problem of, just trying to mesh well. I think this is a problem of their team has no accountability for when they, aren't doing well. And so they're just going to keep continuing a cycle of, well, it wasn't my fault, wasn't my fault, wasn't my fault.
Yeah, the last point I'll make, I disagree with a lot of things you said about Aaron Rodgers. I think I'm a big Aaron Rodgers guy, I think he's a great quarterback, I think he's a great leader, and I think he's known to get hot in November, December. That's when he gets hot. He's known to make these end-of-season pushes to make the playoffs. He's done it multiple times with the Packers. So all I'm saying is, it's a bad man right there.
It is.
Never count him out.
Unfortunately, we had to experience that.
Okay, so I like the points on both sides. I like the biggest thing I liked over here was the defense being up the offense because y'all brought up y'all you countered it. They brought up how the defense has not been playing well, and you say now the offense kind of picks it up, the defense kind of feed off that because they are a good defense on paper and they have been underperforming. I do agree with that. And then looking at the schedule y'all put up on the computer, it does look pretty sweet. Like the Jags, the Seahawks, the Cardinals, they've looked good this year. They're not good. The Colts are not good. The Rams are okay. The Dolphins.
Sleeping on Joe Flacco and the Colts?
I don't believe. I love Joe Flacco back. It was the Ravens
got the
back
battle
like a decade
of
ago.
2012 quarterbacks.
So I'm gonna push in their favor because I like their belief in Aaron Rodgers. I like their belief in the team because he brought up good points that Aaron Rodgers has done a lot in his career. He's getting old. He's 42 years old. He's an old guy. He doesn't look as sharp as he did, but he's got a lot of talent. They got a lot more talent than they did when Zach Wilson was at the Q. So I believe in the Jets, and I like the argument they had. So we'll move into the last question. This should be a fun one. So it's a rapid fire round. So I don't try and pick questions that y'all have to have too much knowledge on. Y'all should just know this for going to this school in general. So with the UT joining the SEC, not rejoining, they spark up old rivalries. Arkansas, A&M. I guess they haven't played Mizzou yet, but that would be a good one whenever they do play Mizzou. But we're going to push into the A&M one. So that's the Lone Star Showdown. That's bad blood. That's bitter. And then they've been playing Oklahoma forever. So the biggest thing now is now that you've re-sparked that Lone Star Showdown, who do you think is UT's biggest rival? Is it going to be Oklahoma, or is it going to be A&M? Whoever talks first goes.
You got to go with Oklahoma. I mean, that's the rivalry with the most history. Sure, in-state rivalries are big. They're not that big. I mean, let's look at other states really quick. Michigan versus Michigan State. You think anybody at Michigan is saying, yeah, actually, MSU was our biggest rival? No, it's Ohio State versus Michigan. It's the game. There's a reason why it has a much bigger brand. That game is bigger because it is the bigger rivalry. It's the same reason why Red River is bigger than the Lone Star Showdown. It's because that game is more intense, there's more hatred between it, and it's usually closer than the games between A&M and Texas are going to be. I mean, it's just the rivalry is bigger because there's more hatred between the two schools. I'm going to be honest, as a Texas fan, I'm not thinking about A&M that much, right? When I think about Oklahoma, all I want to do is see them fail. I want to see Oklahoma lose. When I watch A&M play, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it'd be cool if they lost, but, like, I don't really root against them actively like I do against Oklahoma. I think that the rivalry, Red River Shootout rivalry, is so much bigger than the rivalry against A&M, and it's not even close.
And I have to agree with that because the Red River rivalry is just, of course, a big-time spectacle. Can't wait to see the Lone Star Showdown, of course, but when I think of Texas OU, that is the game I have circled way in advance. Everybody meeting in Dallas, of course, halfway between Norman and Austin, and seeing that game, watching this team's downfall, just brings me joy. And so when I see Oklahoma like this right here, of course, who's been historically dominant, by the way, it adds to the rivalry because they dominated the Big 12 so much, winning over 10 Big 12 championships, Texas only winning 4 in the history of the Big 12. And being that this team is always trying to chase Oklahoma, that adds a little bit more to the rivalry, of course.
I think a lot of good points were made there, but the hatred aspect I have to really disagree with. I mean, I've been a Texas fan my entire life, and I want that Oklahoma game to be a good game. I want both teams to be 5-0. Like every time I see A&M lose, I'm so happy. We live inside these people's heads. Like they want to be us so bad, and they don't understand that. And all they do is talk trash, and that's all they do. And I have so much more hatred towards A&M than Oklahoma. While I do agree that the Oklahoma game is much more special. That's my favorite weekend of the entire year. But in terms of rivalry and hatred, by far A&M, I think.
I'm going to counter that with, yeah, they think about us a lot, but that's just little brother syndrome. I mean, like I brought up with Michigan State and Michigan. I went to Michigan State. I won't lie. Michigan State fans have little brother syndrome. Michigan doesn't think about Michigan State at all. I mean, it's not really a rivalry if we beat them every time. There's no rivalry there. The last time Texas played A&M, Texas won, and then there's been nothing since in football-wise. But I don't think a Texas fan has really thought about A&M as a football team when thinking about Texas football in at least 10 years, right?
Well,
and even still, before the start of this season, A&M was the third game people were talking about. People were talking about Oklahoma first, then Georgia. Nobody was talking about A&M as the two big games this season. Who was I don't remember that happening at all.
I think a lot of people were talking about that game. They haven't played in 12 years, so I think people were really keying in on that game. And that team that we never think of is the only undefeated team in the SEC right now. So I think you need to keep that in mind, especially for this year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of people are talking about that now. I mean, this game is going to be huge, specifically this year. I mean, these two teams have been acting like they haven't cared about each other for the last 12 years. And we all know that they want to play each other deep down. They want that game because this is a rivalry. Obviously, it's hard to argue with the spectacle of Red River, but I kind of like the point you were making. A lot of it is just that, a spectacle. This game against A&M, it's going to be gritty. It's going to be dirty. It's a rivalry game. There's hatred, real hatred in there. And the fact that it's in College Station with two of the top teams in the SEC, potentially 4 spot in the SEC championship game, first time in over a decade. I mean, I'm really excited to see that. Oklahoma this year, they honestly never really worried me. Going into that game, I was never too worried for that Red River game. But this game, I'm a little nervous, man. In College Station, we just saw the effect that 12th man could have. This game is going to be insane, and it's been built up for a long time.
I'm going to counter the hatred with, I think the hatred is one-sided. I mean, I'm sure, has everybody seen the picture of the guy at the volleyball game that was a fan wearing a 30 to 15 shirt?
That's insane.
Like, your team wasn't even in that game, and you're still hating. I mean, like, who?
That runs deep.
I mean, that is a one-sided hatred. I don't hate A&M because I'm gonna be honest, I kind of just pity them. You go to A&M, you're in a cult. Whatever. I mean, but when they look at Texas, they're like, I wanted to go to that school. I'm gonna say about probably 80% of the students there were like, I would have went there if I got in, but they didn't get in, and that's why they hate us, because they want to be us. We don't want to be them. We just pity them. It's not really hatred. It's more just, I mean, I don't really care.
I mean, to make a parallel, I think a lot of UNC students would say the same thing about Duke, that if they had gone to Duke, they would have gone there, and that's how college rivalries are born, in state. And I think you were making a really good point with the hatred piece. Like Oklahoma, 2-year point, we blew them out this year. We're not close with them right now. A&M is our main competitor at the moment, especially the way that Mike Elko has the program going. They're kind of following a Steve Sarkisian track in that they always had high recruiting classes with other coaches, but they weren't recruiting the right guys and developing them correctly. But now they have a coach that's doing that. So
Also,
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Also, just wanted to say, you're saying who wants to be an A&M fan? You want to be an OU fan? I mean, I don't know if that's any better. I don't think we necessarily
They have a historical
want to
pedigree
be
over Texas,
them.
in all fairness.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to be a Sooner anytime
I mean,
soon.
at least Sooners have a championship to celebrate. What does A&M have?
World War II titles.
I mean,
at that point, let's just argue Navy is as big a team as A&M. We're talking about World War II titles. When was the last time A&M was actually relevant in the national championship landscape? Yeah, they had Johnny Manziel. They didn't make the college football playoffs once with them. I mean,
All right, Mike, I think you got a decision right here.
yeah, I mean, I do have to disagree. A lot of UT fans hate A&M. There's a big hatred there. I'll probably go A&M. It would go A&M and OU are a toss-up, and then we'll go Arkansas when it comes to hatred between the two. I was close to putting Arkansas on this question, but I just don't know how many people know about the Arkansas rivalry. Because that's a far one.
that's like a 30-year-old rivalry.
Yeah, that's a
we
deep
haven't played
one.
them in 30 years.
Yeah, there's big hate on that. I mean, I made up a lot of good points. I like the spectacle, what's it called, the film around the Red River, because of how it's split and the difference, and it's I mean, it's one of the most premier games in college football every year. But what I loved about the A&M game was that it was the Thanksgiving game, so that was also pretty big. I do agree that A&M is little brother to UT though, and Oklahoma's not. But I mean, the biggest rivalries are brotherly rivalries, so I'm torn between the two. It really is a toss up, but I'm gonna have to go with Oklahoma, because the argument y'all put out just went a little deeper than the one they put out for A&M. But it was a great argument. It was a great argument all around. It was I couldn't think and put the Master Chief helmet on, because someone took our trophy. We don't know where it is, so we borrowed the Master Chief for Halloween, and there's the champ trophy.
All right, so that'll do it for this block of the Want to Know Sports Show. Congrats to me and Colin. Thank you for joining us again, Dylan and Colin, who will also be taking the sidestep on this segment. But when we come back, we're going to go to our Pick'em segment here on the Want to Know Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
show of the 1-0 Sports Show. We're here for our pick'ems. Colin is sticking around, and Joe is still here as well. We're starting off Ohio State at Penn State. I'm taking Ohio State in this game. James Franklin is going to James Franklin. We know who this man is. He's shown it multiple times. He can win the big games, and I think that trend continues on Saturday.
I mean, I'm going to take Penn State. Ryan Day, still on third base.
I'm going to go with Ohio State here. Of course, Oakland has to give. Ryan Day has also had his trouble with top 10 teams, but also James Franklin 1-9 against Ohio State in his tenure at Penn State, I believe. So I'm going to go with Ohio State here. It seems like they always just defeat the Nittany Lions.
Moving on to number 19, Ole Miss at Arkansas. I'm taking Ole Miss in this game. Number 2 in sack pressure rate, while Arkansas is 88th in allowing sacks in the country, and Ole Miss also is best against the run in the country. So, yeah, Ole Miss.
I'm going to go Ole Miss as well. Something's got to give for this team. They got to get one sometime, and I think this is going to be the game.
I'm going to go with Ole Miss, of course, to wrap it up here. I do think that Arkansas is a nice environment that they're going to welcome Ole Miss to in Fayetteville. But like Jackson was saying, they're number 1 against the run, and I don't think that fares well for this Arkansas rush attack.
Next game on the docket, Texas A&M at South Carolina. Although Cocktober is officially over, I will still be taking the Gamecocks in an upset. I just think Texas A&M really feeds off the energy at home, and that's helped them a lot this year in terms of momentum swings, and I think South Carolina pulls off the upset.
All right, I'm going to go A&M. I love Shane Beamer, but give me A&M.
And I love Shane Beamer, too. That's why I'm taking South Carolina. They usually get a good upset most of the seasons they've had under his tenure. They got one with Tennessee about 2 years ago. I really like that game. I think they can do something similar against the A&M Aggies, who are kind of flying high with Marcel Reed taking his QB1 role lately.
Next up, we have a ranked matchup. Undefeated number 18 Pitt at SMU. I'm going to be taking SMU in this game. You know, they make the decision to bench Preston Stone early in the year. Kevin Jennings is must-see TV. He's been electric this year, and I think they keep riding him.
Yeah, give me Pitt. Best city on the country. Shout out my friend On God who goes to Pitt. And, I mean, they had one, like, their biggest test this season so far was Syracuse last week. They made Kyle McCord look like he was still at Ohio State, and Pitt offense just looked great. They put up a 40 bomb on that Syracuse defense. I don't see anything going on with this SMU team. Give me Pitt.
You know, it's kind of crazy how in the first year going into the ACC, you know, the Ponies are kind of big dog in this conference out of nowhere, and I think that's kind of awesome. But as they play against the Pittsburgh Panthers, the undefeated Pittsburgh Panthers, I think they're going to actually lose this one to Narduzzi's squad. I like what they have going on in Pittsburgh. Hail to Pitt in this game.
Moving on, Minnesota at number 22, Illinois. I think this is going to be a really great game. Definitely a defensive game, and it's going to be really close. I think it's going to come down to the third downs. Because Illinois is at home, I'm going to give them the edge.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota here. I mean, at the start of the season, PJ Fleck's job looked like it was in danger, but I think this Minnesota team has really turned it around. Yeah, they're probably still going to have kicking problems, which is why I'm not a big fan of the -3 line. I feel like that they're going to end up in a situation tied late in the game where they're going to probably miss a kick, but I'm still going to go with my gut, and my gut says Minnesota.
And I'm not going to lie, PJ Fleck has kind of fallen out of favor with me. I was really bought in the Ski U mantra that he was trying to push in his first few years in Minnesota, and he said he was turning it around. I do think they can end up finishing very well this season, but not against Luke Altmaier in this offense of Brett Bielema in Illinois. So I'm going to go with Illinois winning this game at home with a rowdy environment for the Fighting Illini.
All right, moving on to the NFL. The Cowboys are at the Falcons this week. As a Cowboys fan, it's been pretty hard to watch every week this year. We'll probably lose again.
All right, I'm going to go with the Falcons. I'm a big Cowboys hater, as we established last week when I directly called out this guy, said his team would lose, and I was right, by the way. And I'm going to go against the Cowboys again. I think that's a pretty safe pick every year or every week from this point on. Yeah, give me the Falcons.
And you know what? The Cowboys have historically dominated Kirk Cousins. If you remember the last time they played Kirk Cousins, it was a beatdown in Minnesota, 40-0 at that stadium, the big ship that they call in Minnesota. I do think they dominate them. And also historically, the Cowboys have dominated the Falcons, especially without Julio Jones. Julio Jones, when in his tenure, is the reason they won most of those games. There was no answer for the Cowboys defense. I thought that this game could possibly be one that the Cowboys can get back on track in Atlanta.
Moving on to the Tank Bowl this week, the Titans are at the Patriots. Yeah, this is a pretty disgusting matchup. I don't think anyone's gonna be watching this game, but I'm gonna take the Pats. Hopefully, we'll get another Will Levis meme.
All right, yeah, I was going to ask if Will Levis is still starting. I'm going to go with Will Levis, not the Titans, but I think Will Levis is going to win this game solely because he's going to give us another clip to put on our Levis Lowlight of the Week for next week. So, yeah, just give me Will Levis. Or for the official pick, I'll pick the Titans, but give me Will Levis.
I'm actually going to go with the Tennessee Titans here. I'm really thinking that Tony Pollard can step up for this team, but also Calvin Ridley, who has kind of had a quiet year here, getting signed to Nashville. DeAndre Hopkins is finally gone. He gets to be the clear number one guy, and I don't trust this Patriots defense too much. Of course, they just defeated the New York Jets. I'm really just going to go with the Tennessee Titans here, getting a big win on the road and getting back in the winning column and trying to build a streak here.
Moving on, divisional matchup. The Lions are at Green Bay in Lambeau Field. I'm going to take the Lions. They're the hottest team in the NFL right now, except for maybe the Chiefs. But they've been rolling. I think they've put up 40 points in like 6 of their last 8 games or something. So, yeah, take the Lions.
Yeah, sorry, Santi. I'm going to go with the Lions. I don't think this Packers team can even compare to this Lions team. They can just beat you in too many ways offensively, and their defense is just rock solid. I don't think that the Packers really even have a chance. That 2.5 line, I'm taking the Lions to break that line any day.
This is going to be such a close one. I cannot wait to watch this. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers, though. I think they can really stun the Detroit Lions. Of course, this is a Lambeau game, and I do think that they fared well in these past few games. They haven't lost in a minute at Lambeau Field. Of course, they lost a few weeks ago, I believe, to the Minnesota Vikings after I think that was the first home loss of the year. But I do think that they can get back on track against a big division opponent in Detroit Lions, who have not beaten them at Lambeau in a minute. I think Jordan Love can really feast in the passing game with Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs. I like the Green Bay Packers here.
All right, moving on. The Bears are at Arizona this week. I'm going to take the Cardinals here. I just think that's a little bit too long of a flight for a rookie quarterback to make. And I think the Cardinals take it at home.
I don't know about the flight, man, dude. He played at SC, like USC, and they played quite a few games in his time there in the middle of the country. I don't think from Chicago to Arizona is really that bad for him. Anyway, give me the Bears. I love Caleb Williams, so give me the Bears.
I think this team is pissed, man. You lose a game like that, Tyreek Stevenson with the most baffling play I've ever
Wave
seen,
to the
really.
fans.
I mean, waving to the fans when possibly the game is on the line and you end up costing your team. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears bouncing back in Arizona in Glendale against Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals.
And then we move to Monday night, Chiefs versus the Bucks. I will take the Chiefs. I think the refs will be helping them out either way. So,
Yeah, give me the Chiefs. I mean, Baker Mayfield's looked good this season, but this is the Chiefs we're talking about. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he hasn't even played that well this season, and they're still winning by big numbers every week. I don't see a league where this Chiefs team doesn't end up in the Super Bowl again. I think they're just too good everywhere.
And look, I mean, Tampa Bay's back is against the wall, of course, on Monday Night Football, going against the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. But I don't know how they can really answer with this one. Of course, Chris Godwin's gone. Mike Evans still hurt. And this Kansas City defense, who I still believe does not give enough praise, they're going to find a way to really just have Baker in a loop. So I don't think they're going to really have an answer for this Tampa Bay offense. I think the Chiefs are going to roll with this one easily on Monday Night Football.
all right, that wraps up our pick'em segment. And that's it for this morning, but make sure you tune in next week at 11 a.m. and be sure to check out our sister shows, College Press Box on Tuesday nights at 6:30 and College Crossfire on Wednesday nights at 9. Have a nice day.